Hi everybody, welcome to the Deep Thought. My name is Hasib. It's been a while since I've made a video or even made any kind of recording. With that being said, I would like to start with the topic of the day that's been rummaging through my mind at least the past couple of days. And it's been rummaging through my mind because it's an issue that we seem to have come up over and over and over again. I don't necessarily know exactly what to do about it, but I do think that if we talk about it, I think just the fact that we can recognize and talk about it will ultimately help in the end. So today, I want to talk about the discrimination and the bias and all the racial issues that are actually going on in the United States specifically. I don't want to talk about the rest of the world. I want to talk about solely what's going on here in the United States. This is the country in the world that is supposed to be a representation, a beacon of progression, of progress. And it doesn't seem like we've made very much progress in this direction when we look at a few things that have been going on here in recent history of the United States. And that being said, of course, I do mean the past leadership administration that was elected to run the United States government the past 4 years. And it seems like this issue of racial prejudice or discrimination is still very prevalent in the culture here. And it's not just one culture. Like, this isn't just a blanket statement to say that, all white people are racist. Or if you think in this way, then you are then in terms a racist. No. This is much bigger than that, and it's going to be much more broader than that. It's going to be about the administration that was actually running the United States during the time that it did, but it's also going to be about the other people that are actually occupying the space within the United States, within this country, because it takes two to tango, and in this case, there's more than two. So that means that there is going to be bias and discrimination, from one group of people to another. We see it all around the world. But with that being said, let's start with the administration, the past administration specifically. And that was obviously Donald Trump with his administration. And I just want to say this aloud. The past administration, it seemed perceptively to a large majority of people, even Republicans, like hardcore Republican advocates, and I'm not trying to make this political, I'm trying to really draw a line here to show just how far people are, just how far some people go, and that it isn't acceptable in society today. Because in the same way, there's obviously some things that the Democratic-sided individuals do that many of us do not agree with as well. And in the same respect, there's a lot of things that the Republican parties do, or that those ideologies do that that we don't necessarily accept. And I want to talk about the last administration specifically because even in the past history of America, I don't think I've ever witnessed such a divisive administration, because they did the past administration really trying to subdue the people of this country and really divide it via the subtle, minute tactics that they took to undermine the various types of people in this country. Of course, in this case, I'm talking about the people of color. So anybody with any type of skin color that was a little bit darker than tan was a good target. Gender, specifically women, and yes, I am talking about the grab them by the you-know-what comment. That was a very derogatory comment, and that's not locker room talk. Let's just put this out there too. Nobody ever says that. If you were ever in a locker room, if women just need to know this. If you're in men's locker rooms, there's never a moment where we're ever talking about anything about really women. If you've ever been in a men's locker room, we get dressed and we get the hell out. We don't want to be there. Like, nobody wants to be there in a room full of naked guys, really. Like, maybe if you lean in the direction of, that kind of thing, but most of the time it's that environment. It's the locker room environment. It's not necessarily one that we really enjoy being in. We don't care for it. So that kind of comment was a very big slap to the face of women when, the comment was made, grab them by the downstairs parts. And that made it almost seem like it was okay to view women as a subclass of the human species, and that was just another thing that they did. There was also the issue of faith. So they targeted people of faith, specific faith, and this was the Islamic religion. So when the Muslim travel ban was implemented, obviously, that was very, very specific to one faith and only one faith in the world. And it targeted a bunch of countries over in the East, as well as a few within the European regions. And that was a very harsh form of discrimination, because we made it, this ban was solely based around the ideology that you hold. If you hold this ideology, then you cannot come into my country because you do not share the same ideology that I do. And any philosopher, anybody who even understands philosophy and diversity, knows that this was very stupid, because you cannot have a free country if you don't allow ideologies to come in and not necessarily take hold, but just come in and help expand on what we have today as a human species and everything that we've developed. So these are the three big things that I saw this past administration really touch on. And then here at the very end, the issue was obviously COVID. So because COVID came around, COVID basically destroyed everyone's economy. Obviously, some people don't look at it like that. Some people see COVID as a controlling mechanism, a tool that the government was using. I don't necessarily understand the thinking of these individuals who don't understand anything about virology. But go, do your thing. But the past administration basically made it seem like the Asian population, anybody who is Asian or even looks remotely Asian, is basically responsible for bringing a virus to the rest of the world. Now, I'm not going to say that, it didn't stem from a certain country or anything like that, because I don't necessarily have all the answers, and I can't say that definitively. I don't know where it came from. I don't know really anything about it other than what we know now and everything that we've all really been discussing. But the issue here at hand now, because obviously we've gone through, and we have been going through the issues of the discrimination from the past administration towards the people of color, as well as women. But now it's definitely been on the rise against Asians, against the Asian American population here in the United States. And the reason I wanted to really discuss this is because I wanted to make a point about racial discrimination. And I wanted to talk about it. Because, one, I have experienced it myself, very personally, throughout my years as a teenager, and growing up through a part of my childhood, because I was in a small town in Arizona, which was unknowing to me, apparently extraordinarily racist. And let me use different terminology here, because I don't want to use the term racist. I want to use the term discriminatory, definitely biased. And the people in this town were not very welcoming of anybody that was from a foreign land, or anybody who had foreign ideologies, because they felt threatened. And the reason they felt threatened was because it was just different. It was something else. It was something that they weren't really familiar with. And because they weren't familiar with it, they recognized it as a possible threat. And so here in our modern day, because of the past administration's actions and everything that was going on, the propaganda that was, being spread around the world, basically vilified all Asians, and now the Asian population is getting the brunt of this now too. Not just the Islamic faith, but now an entire population based on their humanity. Literally, the fact that they exist, they're being discriminated against because of the propaganda campaign that the past administration put forward. And it wasn't just them, it was a bunch of other people who basically bought into it, because people who are not given the proper tools to recognize certain things or understand certain things tend to only believe what they hear. So in this case, because some people were probably busy doing other types of work and providing our societies with other goods and services, they don't necessarily have the time to do their own research or necessarily even go and educate themselves on the certain subjects. And so in this case, many people ended up just listening to exactly what the president of the United States was saying. And in this case, he was basically blaming the entire Asian population, Chinese population. But in this case, it's literally been just anybody who looks Asian. The discrimination has just been so broad. It doesn't matter if you're Chinese, it doesn't matter where you're from. As long as you look Asian, you're going to be discriminated against. And the worst part about it is that you may very well be attacked as well. And I definitely know this feeling. I've been confronted about religious beliefs and views that I've held before in my past, especially in my teen years, because people felt threatened by it. People didn't like it, and because people didn't like it or understand it, they confronted it because they were fearful of it. And in this case, I don't necessarily know exactly what to do. I felt that it was a good idea to really bring this up and bring it to the attention of everyone that, one, you shouldn't discriminate against an entire population of people based on, one, the way that they look. Literally, the way that they look. Because that is a form of discrimination. And you subconsciously, because you don't realize this, you subconsciously develop a bias against these people. So when you categorize people and you put them in boxes, you basically make a definition for them and you put them in a bias box. I guess that's the best way I could really put it. You put them in a bias box. And if you ever come across these types of individuals or anybody who you believe, and this is very important to recognize and understand, if you believe any individual is basically represents this definition of yours that you've developed, this bias, then it doesn't matter what they look like or who they are. You're still going to be biased against them, even if they're the kindest, most loving person in the world. You would still hate them or have a disproportionate bias against them. Now, there is one thing that I definitely understand. Some people might question, and that's well, why didn't you use the term racism, or any of these terms? And there is a reason behind it. Racism is a word. It's a term that I don't necessarily like to use in conversation because it's a very divisive word, and what it does is it makes it seem as if there literally is more than one race in this world, on this planet, on Earth. And while there are different animals on this planet, there's only one human race, and you can't really. I mean, if you hate one, like if you hate a certain color of people, if you hate a certain faith, a certain ideology, a certain look, to me that's just that's discrimination and bias. Race doesn't really play in it for me. It seems more to me, and that's very important to me. It seems to me that it's more just discrimination, because people don't necessarily hate an entire race, because if they did, then they would hate themselves, and that's a whole philosophical road that I really don't want to get down right now. But I wanted to talk about this today because, just the violence that has been going on, like that's been shown on the news and everything like this, just purely ignorant. And I don't recognize, or I think I just don't understand why it's going on right now, especially towards the Asian community, because they haven't done anything, quite literally, and I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around why people actually discriminate, why people actually hate, and why they fear the others so harshly as they do. Now, I get it. There's some bad characters out there. I definitely understand. I'm not blatantly ignorant of my own dark side, trust me. Very well aware of what I'm capable of. There is that piece of us as human beings, just any individual, that we all know about, that we all recognize, and that we all, don't really bring out too often. But to believe that everybody is solely that thing is just not the right way to live life. It feels like to me that you're living a very fearful and hateful life because you've created your own narrative of what you believe and what you want the world to look like. So to elaborate a little further on that, when people develop or learn a bias, or they learn to discriminate towards people, it's typically because they don't necessarily like something about them, or they think that they're evil, or they think that they're here to destroy them, take their things, whatever. And this ideology, this thought, basically narrates your entire view of existence, of reality. And when you allow this narrative, when you allow this type of ideology to really rule your world, then all you can see in the world is just, evil. You see all the bad things in everybody that doesn't look exactly like you, or think exactly like you, or believe in the same things that you do. And it's difficult to witness this. It's difficult to see how far people go in order to indoctrinate others for their own personal gain. Because it really is. It's when we're brought into this world, we're not brought into this world hating everything. Nor are we brought into this world to love everything. These are things that we develop through our experience, through our lives. As the progression of our lives continues, we develop, I don't want to say biases, but bias is probably the best word. And not in a bad way, because obviously we tend to lean more towards, the things that are more pleasurable in life than painful. We tend to enjoy the things that are a little more pleasurable to us rather than painful. And so, we kind of learn to distinguish our biases of things that we like and we don't like. But when it comes to human beings, we can... It just seems, I guess, a little insane to me that people are willing to develop these extreme righteous biases and discrimination against other people, and they never want to change it. Anyway, that is what is on my mind for the day. I hope you guys enjoyed my little talk here. I don't know if you guys did or not, but I hope you did. Anyway, take care, and I will talk to you guys again, well, whenever I do. Take care, everybody.